Bahia, Brazil. Salvador is a beautiful coastal city, a metropolis with 4 million active people calling it home. This city comes alive on weekend nights. Its restaurants, basketball and football courts all fill as the evening ushers an eager breeze up the coast.
Salvador Bahia is a premier city, a city of firsts. It's the first region that the Portuguese landed when they came to Brazil. It has the very first slave trading market in the Americas. The original sin started here. It's also the most chocolate city outside of Africa. In fact, it's intensely chocolate, 80% chocolate to be exact. This city has these statistics to reveal its uniqueness, its specialness, its qualities. But that's not the tale of the city. The tale of the city is the people, the vibe, and the love that exists here for Black people.
Prior to the arrival of the European, the lands currently known as Brazil were inhabited by semi-nomadic hunter-gatherer tribes. There were about 2,000 tribes in all, with numbers upwards of 3 million that covered the land now known as Brazil. All of that changed when Portugal hit the shore. Salvador was founded in 1549 on a small peninsula that separates Todos os Santos Bay from the Atlantic Ocean. On the northeast coast of Brazil, Salvador da Bahia became Portugal's first capital in the Americas. 9 years later, they began their run as the world's most notorious human traffickers on the planet Earth. The Portuguese are the OGs, originators, and primary benefactors of this cruel dehumanization known as the transatlantic slave trade. Portuguese vessels carried roughly 5.8 million people into the worst nightmare imaginable, European slavery. This was easily the lion's share of the total people taken from the motherland. But this, my friends, is only the beginning.
My name is Tânia Neres. Eu não sou de Salvador, mas eu moro em Salvador há 17 anos. E Salvador, eu utilizo a palavra Salvador como salvamento. Salvador me salvou. Foi aqui que eu descobri que eu era uma mulher negra e não em São Paulo. E as pessoas me acolheram muito, vindo eu, uma mulher sozinha, vindo para Salvador para trabalhar. Eu não vim para Salvador curtir, dançar, passear, eu vim trabalhar e fui muito acolhida. As pessoas em Salvador, elas te convidam para comer na sua casa, elas batem na sua porta e digam, trouxe comida, venha na minha casa participar da minha festa, tem tudo isso. Eu gostaria que você viesse aqui. Então isso a gente começa a se acostumar, porque em São Paulo as pessoas abrem uma janela assim, pequenininha, e digam, oi, não tem. É assim, sim, São Paulo é assim. Dizem que o litoral faz as pessoas serem mais felizes. Nos remete à família e à África. E tudo isso faz com que a gente comece a se olhar no espelho e entender o quanto a gente é importante dentro desse espaço chamado Salvador. Porque em outros lugares no Brasil, a gente, por exemplo, em São Paulo, a gente não percebe tanto por conta de... São muitas pessoas. Uma casa, um chinês, uma casa, um italiano. Então... Em Salvador não. Todos são pretos.
I heard it was like 80%.
Yes. Todos são pretos. E isso faz com que a gente diga, estou em casa.
There are several different reasons why Bahia, more specifically Salvador, has been deemed the Black Rome, known as the Black Mecca, or better still, the blackest city outside of Africa. Several different reasons why. Here are a few of the majors. The Portuguese were the first on the scene to start raping and pillaging Africa for its resources.
The beginning of the transatlantic slave trade lies at the feet of the Catholic Church. Alfonso V, King of Portugal, approaches the Pope regarding some lucrative opportunities he has newly discovered in Western and Central Africa. Pope Nicholas V's response was to issue a papal Bullum Versas on June 18, 1452. It stated, to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Sacrins, which were Muslims, and pagans whatsoever, and reduce their persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods, and to convert them to his and their use and profit.
They showed up on the scene first. They were the first Europeans there, and they were the Europeans to take the most out of Africa. They took upwards of 4.9 million individuals from African soil and transported them to Brazilian soil. Now, of that 4.9 million, 1.3 million of these individuals went through the Bahia port and were processed inside of Salvador, which is the first slave market in the Americas.
There was a period of time in the 1930s where the president and the elite class started to make designations of the different regions in Brazil. And while many of the regions were pushing towards modernization and whitening, there was one region that was going against the mold, a region that already deeply identified and represented their blackness. And due to that, the president designated this area, Bahia, Salvador, as black. About that whitening.
Brazil, upon abolition, was faced with a question about the future of Brazil in the world, right? And having been one of the last countries to abolish slavery and seen as backwards and inferior, they were grappling with what to do with this majority black population. How did they move forward and become modernized and become comparable to Europe and other countries that was modernizing long before the abolition of slavery? So in Brazil, there was a concerted effort at the level of government, the federal government, to eliminate and exterminate the Black and indigenous population through whitening, branqueamento. Embedded in the idea of whitening, of course, is the idea that Blackness and indigeneity are inferior. That meant an actual financial investment in the importation of European whites that would produce a new white race in Brazil.
People say, but I am in this position because I worked hard.
You have said, no, you did. Your cousin gave you the
Exactly,
job.
but we need to explain it to them because they just think it was hard work.
And it's ingrained.
Yeah.
That's the same reason why being Brazilians may not consider there to be racism.
Exactly.
Racism structures everyday life. Everyday structures, institutions, policies shape people's experiences, especially put particular racial groups at an advantage and others at a disadvantage.
Salvador is the third largest city here in Brazil. And like most of the other cities, the majority of the black people stay in favelas, which is kind of low-income housing, if you will.
Favelas are something that you're going to see throughout different parts of Brazil. In Salvador, you will see them here as well. But what's interesting is how they came about. After slavery was abolished, people had nowhere to go and no money to get there.
And eventually in 1888, slavery was abolished. But no provisions were made to integrate former slaves into Brazilian society by offering educational opportunities or job opportunities. So you have many of them going to the urban areas, to cities, and living in the poorest neighborhoods with the least opportunities.
The favela was and is a construct of necessity. Rather than live a life exposed to the elements, our people found materials and built shanty towns. These shanty towns are historically marked by sharp socioeconomic inequalities, abusive police tactics, low income, majority black and brown community members, and located in urban neighborhoods. It is here that you will also find the heart of black culture. Graffiti, the current sounds blaring out of speakers, capoeira, condoble temples, churches, community organizations, and of course, great restaurants that serve up a taste of the culture. The landscape of Salvador is abundant in its historically relevant, culturally demonstrative, soul-filling icons. Susana's restaurante falls comfortably into place here, serving up a soulful taste of the culture. This restaurant is indicative of what you can find inside of the favelas in Salvador. This 300-year-old fish stew fuses together ingredients and techniques from indigenous, Portuguese, and African cultures to deliver a completely Brazilian dish. This authentic national treasure, moqueca, is the flex of Bahia. No one does it better. One of the major imports that we found here was black-eyed peas, served in so many different dishes, and we were just quite surprised. Honestly, I wasn't expecting that. But then, it is directly across the shore from Africa, right?
Yes.
Angola.
Straight across from Angola. So you'll definitely see and taste a lot of flavors from Africa.
Fresh shrimp cooked in the sauce, baby. Oh my goodness. They also do this cassava a lot here. And it looks like they have turmeric. Seems like turmeric is in everything. Hey!
Yes, thank you.
If you see your friend at a store or something, how do you say hello?
Hello, e aí?
E aí?
E aí?
Somebody's playing football and they score. How do you say good job or yeah, or show excitement?
We will say arrasou, we will so good.
Like if your mom is sitting next to you, right.
Yes, and the normal form, the string form is você faz foda nisso, tipo.
I'm gonna study it, thank you. Because we always hear that Brazil there's no racism and that nobody sees color.
So it's normal here. A gente, nós brasileiros, somos educados para não ver racismo. Então, a nossa colonização, né, a colonização brasileira, então muita gente aqui é miscigenada. We have a very mixed people, very strange part. Só que não é miscigenado, é gente muito rica, rich people.
Okay.
Mas pessoas que não são tão ricas têm um avô negro ou um bisavô, mas quem tem muito dinheiro realmente não tem contato com pessoas negras, no máximo a empregada doméstica. Então no Brasil a gente aprende desde cedo que a gente não tem racismo, que aqui a gente vive numa democracia racial em que o branco, o preto e o indígena vivem em paz, sabe? Só que não é verdade, porque o branco, quando ele tem dinheiro, ele vive nos melhores apartamentos de um bairro. O preto e o indígena e outras pessoas miscigenadas, as pessoas pardas, vivem nas periferias, levando tiro de polícia. E as pessoas indígenas que ainda têm a sua cultura, que conservam sua cultura, são violentadas muito pelo governo, como no último governo que a gente teve, que teve uma violência indígena muito grande, um genocídio, principalmente com povos, como o povo Yanomami, que teve pessoas que passaram fome, pessoas desnutridas, crianças morrendo de desnutrição por conta da exploração de ouro, sabe? Então, falar que no Brasil não tem racismo, que a gente não vê cor, é uma tática, inclusive, para silenciar essas pessoas de minorias, para silenciar pessoas negras, pessoas indígenas, sabe? Para a gente se alienar e pensar, ah, não, essa pessoa tá falando de uma característica minha, sabe? E aí acaba que nos cega dessa realidade, que o racismo no Brasil existe, ele é muito violento, ele mata, e mata muito. Mata muito.
Right? So one can say kind of the quick answer to a definition of structural racism is that it permeates every aspect of our lives. It's so insidious that oftentimes you can't see it.
There was a moment in the early 19th century where the state decided that we should become more white. We had policies for that. Some policies were like, we need to create and build a common sense that there is no racism here, that miscegenation was something good, that made us a better people, and as much as we get mixed, it's better. And because the mix would be like becoming more white. So here in Brazil, our grandfather or grandmother said, maybe it's better if you get married with a more light skin. You're gonna have an easier life. So our generation heard that a lot, and but it's starting doing differently. And our father's generation, they started to change it in some way. So, yeah, they didn't. We resisted. They couldn't make us more white.
Right.
In the opposite, I mean, we are more black now than we were before. Than ever.
Because you know your roots. You understand what
we
you bring
understand
to the table.
it. Every year, every research they make, the number of black people is rising.
Oh, yeah.
And people used to say, I think it's better for me to say that I'm not black, but I'm brown, because maybe I'll have more facilities. And now it's the opposite. No, I'm black.
And with Africa being directly across the ocean from here and the proximity between that continent and this continent, there were key areas where enslaved people were taken from.
They were taken primarily from Benin and Central Africa, the Congo, for this particular area. People from Bahia were from those areas. Like up to 90% of the enslaved people here came from there.
And one interesting thing is that they were transported in groups. So when they made it over here to these shores, they were able to keep a lot of their traditions intact.
And you can see this and hear this and taste this in the different customs present here in Bahia today.
People from all over Bahia love this dish, acarajé. You could even say it's a dish of the gods. This is prepared as an offering to the Orisha. It's also prepared to satisfy the taste buds of people all over this city. It's a street food that also helped to free a lot of enslaved individuals. Urban slavery was a characteristic of Salvador, where the enslaved would get jobs and split their wages with their masters. Well, they were able to put away enough funds to buy their freedom. And after people actually bought their freedom, they would actually pay for other people's freedom as well in this area.
In this region, you see it in the unity, you see it in the religion, you see it in the food, and you see it in the music.
Right.
Santo Tomate in the marketplace, and there's a ritual going on. Capoeira, capoeiras, they're kind of warming up. It's about to go down right over here, so this is culture. And this is the culture of this particular area. A rhythm, everybody's riding, and a rhythm's gonna be captured.
Capoeira, once outlawed in Brazil, is a great example of resistance that flourished in Salvador, where communities would play capoeira to be ready for combat. This sport was brought over to Brazil by captured Africans. They disguised this martial arts as a folk dance. At one point, it was even banned by the Brazilian government, and anyone practicing would be sent to jail. It was practiced secretly until that ban was lifted. It's now a widely popular practice throughout Brazil, with several capoeira schools right here in Salvador.
Logo da mata, traga logo a cabaça, saia logo da mata, larga logo essa lata. Logo da mata, traga logo a cabaça, saia logo da mata, larga logo essa lata. Paga a lata, neguinho, vai te pegar.
Salvador is a spiritual town. You'll see many different religions living side by side with each other, religions that seemingly contradict one another. Candomblé with its idolatry, the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, you see them throughout this city. This is primarily a spiritual town. The religion is everywhere. They practice an African religion here, a few different types, and you see tributes to Candomblé everywhere. I mean, in the parks, in all the stores.
It's definitely been a learning experience of being here and in a place that's kind of steeped in it. You know, it's been interesting seeing kind of how that manifests and what it looks like here in the city. Seeing the orishas, right, or the deities. There's a lake that is on the way to Centro, and it has these orishas.
We thought it was some black royalty.
I mean, maybe it is. And,
true,
you know,
true.
Maybe it is. So it's definitely something that we've been exposed to more than we've ever been exposed to. So it's interesting learning about it and just seeing what the culture is like here, because it is definitely a part of the culture.
The step that we need to take right now and to the future is to elect black people. I mean, we have 2 Congress men and women that are black in a group of 35. We had 1 mayor that was a black woman. This is the next step. I mean, that the people see themselves in the structure, you know, taking decisions for the city. And I think this is something that we need right now. Because we have the infrastructure, we have a good city, we have opportunities, but they are really concentrated in this small white people group that has economic and political power.
2 out of 30.
Woo! 2 out of 30. I mean, and it's, I mean, we are 80%, 82%. I mean, 82%. At least we should have 82% of the public positions, at least, if not all.
So in like 2 or 3 years, where do you see yourself? What would you like to do?
Eu quero estar fora do país, estudando moda, aprimorando os meus conhecimentos, né, na área que eu escolhi para a minha vida. E quero, quem sabe, estar abrindo minha própria marca ou trabalhando em alguma outra marca maior. Então eu quero terminar a faculdade, eu quero fazer mais um curso aqui no Brasil de produção de moda. E eu vou tentar, quando estiver nesse curso, eu vou começar a guardar meu dinheiro e me planejar para tentar fazer au pair em outro país, na França, e tentar fazer moda lá. Isso se eu não conseguir, nesse meio tempo que eu vou fazer esse outro curso, um emprego no Brasil, eu não conseguir me estabilizar financeiramente com a minha própria marca. Então, eu tenho esses planos. Ou eu saio do país, ou eu fico aqui e tento fazer a minha marca.
Yeah, I'm a founder of a startup. Okay. It's called diaspora.black, and we offer guided tours and travel itineraries all around Brazil and other countries, sharing the black history of all these countries. So if you want to travel, if you want to meet in different cities what you can discover about African heritage in this city, you should go to diaspora.black and discover tour guides and travel services to help you to discover it.
What are your dreams?
Quais são os seus sonhos e se você fizer isso? Rodar o mundo, ganhar prêmios, abrir espaço para new artists.
Okay, yeah.
Novos artistas.
Help me. You want to help the new people.
Poder ajudar novos artistas, poder fazer com que eles entendam que um ajudando o outro a gente faz cresce a cultura. Poder fazer minha mãe sorrir, não deixar fazer ela não mais trabalhar, entende? Minha mãe trabalha muito, meus irmãos, fazer com que eles entendam o que é ser preto, o que é sonhos, fazer com que eles também sintam a vontade de viver do que gosta. Nova York para mim. Família. Fazer uma família. Ok? Rodar o mundo, fazer com que eles entendam que eu não sou o dono, somos os donos. Entende? Somos uma família.
Well, Afrotourism is a movement where you can discover, recognize, or meet the protagonism of black people in different places, in different cities. I mean, it's a huge experience when you go to a different city and you see a part of yourself in that city and you connect with it because you recognize, oh, I heard this song, I heard that drums, I feel that tasty. And when you connect with that, this is very powerful because you understand that what we have passed as black people in any place connects with other black people that live at something close to it in a very different context. When you come to Colombia or you come to Salvador and you recognize the same elements in both cities, because we are so powerful and we are so creative that we could resist and share all those traditions in very different contexts. So Afrotourism is a movement, is a strategy so you can preserve the memory of what we have done as black people in diaspora. It's really empowering for everyone that goes to a different city and reconnects with that common history. I invite everybody to try it because you see that we have a very common essence that can, like a seed, that when you plant, it can flourish in different ways, no matter the ground you plant it. It will grow and it will give a lot of fruits. And that's what you're doing with Afrotourism, connecting those fruits, those seeds.